What makes a watch worth buying? Would it be diamonds all over the casing? Would it be the brand name? There are several different factors that can go into making a good or very bad watch. Today we're going to figure out which watches to go for. Now, what I have noticed, there are 5 characteristics into making a good watch. The first being the price to quality ratio. Now, I am more than happy wearing a $30 G-Shock or wearing a $10,000 watch, but I am going to be very upset if that $10,000 watch ended up costing the manufacturer less than $500 to $1,000 to make the actual watch, with their markup being that high. The same thing goes for a $30 watch. Now, the same goes for these fashion brand watches. You cannot be buying a fashion brand watch like Hugo Boss, Tommy Hilfiger. All those watches are going to be costing anywhere around $50, where I would rather buy something like this, understanding that it is a quartz movement, but it is overall much better quality. Now, another watch brand that does get some hate in this category is going to be Hublot, which is more than understandable considering their Classic Fusion costs around $7,500, but in order to manufacture it, the actual movement only costs around $300. So where did the other markup go? Just the brand name at the end of the day. Now, is Hublot a bad watch to buy? Absolutely not. For reasons being, there's always going to be a market for it. These are always selling, whether it's going to be retail or gray market, so there's always going to be a buyer. But if you want something that is going to be quality, I would be looking for a brand more like Tudor, like Rolex, like Omega. Those 3 brands on the high end. Now, 3 brands on the low end: G-Shock, Seiko, Orient. Those 3 watches are amazing. Now, in this segment, we are also talking about, should there be diamonds on the actual watches? Now, this is something I'll get into in a different video about bust down watches, but for now, just know factory is going to be king under this category. The second being brand name. Now, Hublot, it is a brand name. Do they make quality watches? To me, no. Now, do they make really nice looking pieces? Absolutely. I think the aesthetics of a Hublot is really, really nice. One key factor of a good watch is retaining its value after you buy it from a retail or a gray market dealer. There is no use of buying a luxury watch where the moment you walk out the door, you're losing a sizable amount of money. Just because you have a brand name doesn't mean it's going to be a good watch. Now, what it does mean is that there's always going to be a buyer for those watches, which is good if you want to liquidate your collection later on in the future. Now, I can't stress this enough. A watch brand is not going to be Tommy Hilfiger. It's not going to be Hugo Boss. They're not even worth the actual money that the watch is made out of. On the contrary, there are brands like Hermes doing amazing stuff with their watches. Just be on the lookout for certain model brands / watches that do keep their value. Are going to be stuff like Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Tudor with their Black Bay chronograph. Those are going to be watches that are going to be able to keep their value. On the lower end, we're talking about Seiko and limited edition G-Shocks. Now, understand, even though these watches are coming from brands like Rolex and AP, that does not necessarily mean they're going to be able to retain their value. Look at the watch types. Right now, a lot of sports models are in. Now, the third characteristic is going to be testing standards. Tudor has recently released the new Black Bay 58 with the new METAS certified movement. What does that mean for the end consumer? They're getting an amazing movement. There are even brands like Omega that are doing amazing with their COSC certified movements. I mean, their watches are absolutely spectacular and they have a lot of history. Make sure that the watch is able to do what it's specifically mentioned to do. If the diver cannot go underwater, don't buy the watch. I've seen many watches with chronograph pushers that don't actually work and they're just for aesthetic. There's no real use of having those pushers there if they do not have a function. The fourth element to a good watch is going to be sizing. You have no idea how many times I've seen very skinny men with such a big watch like an Invicta. This is all going down to aesthetics. Me being 6'2/3", I cannot be rocking a super small watch. Now, I do understand there's going to be some vintage watches that are going to come at a smaller scale. These watches being a Cartier Carrera, even a 36mm all gold Day-Date. I wish I can rock those watches, but to me, I think in my proportions, they would look very small. If you're going with something brand new, try to go proportional to your wrist size. And of course, just make sure it's comfortable, whether it's going to be on a metal bracelet or leather bracelet. That doesn't really matter to me at the end of the day. And the fifth characteristic of a good watch is going to be whether you're willing to wear the watch in the first place. There are many watch brands out there that could fit your style. At the end of the day, try to find one that you're going to be willing to wake up, put on every day, and walk out the door happy with a smile. I know in my current life, every single time I walk out the door without a watch, I feel almost naked. So make sure whenever you do buy a watch, make sure it's going to be something that you love, something that you're going to be willing to wear and wake up to and put on. Watches tell stories and stories tell a person's past. So make sure whenever you do put on that watch, you're happy because it could remind you of a specific memory. I cannot tell you how happy I am with my personal collection, even though there are some higher end pieces and a lot of lower end pieces. It doesn't really matter to me at the end of the day as long as I'm happy wearing the piece. Do let me know what is in your collection and what you like wearing the majority of the time. I'll talk to you guys soon.